ॐ सहना भवतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यं करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः। हरि ओम. So we were discussing the Adhyasa Bhashya. We were studying the Adhyasa Bhashya, which is the introduction to Shankaracharya's commentary on the Brahma Sutras. So first we saw the standpoint of the opponent or Purva Paksha, and now we are seeing how Shankaracharya refutes. So what was the standpoint of the opponent? The standpoint of the opponent was that there is no superimposition, there is no confusion, everything is okay. So that standpoint could be very well the standpoint of a worldly person. That why are you bothering about spiritual life? Why are you bothering about Brahman or reality, unreality, etc.? Because everything is good. We are all happy and we have 3 meals a day or maybe more. What is the problem? That could be a question. So before we go into this aspect of the Adhyasa Bhashya, I just want to know whether we are able to make any sense of what we are studying. So, what is superimposition? What is superimposition? No, but both are superimposition. Mistaking one thing for another and also mistaking the attributes of one thing for the attributes of another. Both are superimposition. So you mistake something for another. So you see something and instead of seeing that thing, you are seeing something else. That is superimposition. So superimposition is seeing something which it is not. That is superimposition. Superimposition, adhyasa. Adhyasa means what? Adhyasa means mistaking something for something else or mistaking the attributes of something for the attributes of something else. That is adhyasa. Adhyasa. Now here what is the adhyasa? So whether here superimposition is there or is it not there?
It is there.
It is there.
It is there.
So unanimously you agree that there is superimposition. So superimposition is between what? What is superimposed as what? What is superimposition here? So like you were saying that there is this jada and there is this consciousness. So there are not two realities. There is only one reality. There is only consciousness. But we see unconscious or inert matter because of ignorance. So what are the two causes of superimposition or adhyasa? What are the, according to Shankaracharya, not seeing the book, you have to say. What are the two
No,
causes?
this
So means you don't have discernment, you don't have discrimination, and also you have false knowledge. So it is superimposition. Now, what is the nature of superimposition? When did this start? Superimposition. As we were now we will come to the discussion again. We will resume it. As we were seeing the other day, that why would a person of sane mind attempt to know about Brahman? So here, Athato Brahma Jigyasa, that is the first sutra of Brahma Sutra. Why would somebody attempt to know what is Brahman? Unless there is some utility. Unless there is some utility. Without utility, nobody does something. So the other day I gave the example, which is traditionally given, that if in broad daylight a jar is kept, nobody will say that let me find out the jar. No sane person will say. Similarly, if a cow is standing, nobody will go and count the teeth of the cow unless that person has got some research interest, but even then people generally don't do like that. So that means only a person who does not know about something will set on an inquiry about that thing. So you don't know whether there is water in Mars, so you are going and you are sending vehicles, space missions on Mars, and these orbiters, they will go and they will take photographs and send it, so we can analyze and we can say that there is water or there is no water in Mars, or what kind of life, if at all, is there in Mars, what is the terrain in Mars, etc. So something which we don't know of, we want to know, and for that we do an inquiry. And also we do that inquiry when we understand that by doing such inquiry there is some purpose. So nobody counts the hair on a pet dog. Say there is a pet dog and you say, okay, let me now count the hair on the dog's body, because it is purposeless. Nothing is going to be achieved by that. So you don't do that. Only you do such things which have some purpose. So now here the opponent is saying a very important thing. What is the important thing? You see, basically there is something in us which does not change at all. What is that which does not change at all in us?
Consciousness, self.
No, but do you perceive it as consciousness and self?
Like we say I am eating, so I doesn't change at all.
Yes. So the feeling of I does not change at all, even though your body has changed, everything has changed, your memory has changed, but the feeling of I, that does not change at all. If that is the case, and it is all well established that I or the self is Brahman, Jiva Brahma Aikya, that is the goal of the Upanishads or the Advaita Vedanta. What is the goal of Advaita Vedanta? To prove that the individual self and the Supreme Brahman is one and the same thing. They are identical. There is no difference. It is not that they are different to begin with and then you prove them to be the same. They are same in the beginning itself. Because of ignorance, you are unable to understand. So you have to remove the ignorance and then you have to understand that Supreme Brahman and Atman are same. Jiva Brahma Aikya. That is the conclusion, that is the Siddhanta of Advaita Vedanta. If that is the case, then the objection, Purva Paksha or Purva Pakshina's opponent gives this objection that if that is the case and you always have this consciousness of I, if that is the case, then how is it that there could be any misconception? Because all of us perceive I, and all of us now know that I is nothing but Brahman. If that is the case, what is the necessity of having any other kind of misconception? And if that is the case, then why at all we need to go on a study, or we need to start a study of Brahman? Because you see, Brahman is the same as self, and the self is known by everyone. Because every time we say I am this, I am that, or something like that, and nobody says, oh, this is not me, etc. Nobody says that. So there is no misconception about the self. If there is no misconception about the self, and if Advaita philosophy, Advaita Vedanta says that the self is Brahman, so what is the confusion? What is the confusion? That is the question of the Purva Paksha or objection, opponent. What is the confusion? You know that you have to go to a marketplace, and once you go to the marketplace, you know what you have to purchase. Once you go to the marketplace, you buy. So what is the confusion? You know how to go to marketplace and you know what to buy. So why is there so much confusion? So why are you thinking about all these things, that there is misconception, superimposition, etc., etc., etc.? All these things are all uncalled for. This is not necessary at all. Then the next objection is, you see, Upanishads or the Vedas, they say that the knowledge of Brahman is necessary for what? For what? Why do we need this knowledge of Brahman? Why do we need this? So to get rid of this transmigratory cycle of repeated birth and death, to get rid of this sansara chakra, to get rid of this, we need to understand Brahman, we need to get the knowledge of Brahman, and so we will get moksha. You see, the goal of Brahmagyana is moksha. That is why one of the conditions to study Brahman is mumukshutva. You need to have the desire for moksha. Moktumicha mumuksha. So you need to have the desire of becoming liberated, becoming free. And so sansara nirvana, that means nirvana means freedom. From what? Sansara. Sansarati iti sansara, means that which moves is sansara, that which changes is it's sansara. So what is the sansara here? Repeatedly birth and death, that is sansara. So you have to have the desire to get rid of this sansara, and so that is why we are setting out on an inquiry of Brahman. We are studying Brahman. If we are studying the nature of Brahman, or we want to realize Brahman with the purpose of getting liberation or moksha, that is getting rid of repeated birth and death, then you see, what is Brahman? Brahman is nothing but self, and self we are all experiencing as I. So if we are experiencing self as I, the objector or the Purva Pakshin says, if we are experiencing the self as I and self is Brahman, then that means we are already experiencing Brahman. And also this Brahman experience we are getting since eternity. We don't know since when we have this experience of I. We don't know. I is there, at least in this lifetime we know. Since birth till death it is there. So it is there probably for across lifetimes. It is there. So if I is nothing but the self, which is nothing but Brahman, and we are always experiencing the self or the Brahman or I, that means we are experiencing Brahman since eternity without any beginning. And you are saying that this Sansara Chakra also is without any beginning. This also is there since eternity, because we are told that Ajnana, ignorance, because of which we come into this world, or we come into this repeated birth and death cycle. This has no beginning. This is also there since eternity. So if both have been there since eternity, where is the contradiction? Asks the opponent. So that means you are only creating all these problems. Actually, there is no contradiction. This repeated birth and death is also there since eternity, and this Brahman is also there since eternity, and you are experiencing Brahman, and you are saying that Brahman and self are same, and self you are experiencing through I experience, and so there is no need to get any moksha, etc. Because the moment you understand Brahman to be the same I, then you automatically understand that it is there. And so why are you confusing the statement of the Purva Paksha or the objector? So let us wait and see what Shankaracharya says. So this is the stand of the objector. That objector says this. So now the objector says this, the opponent says this, that the idea you say asmad yushmad pratyaya gocharayoho. So you say that the concepts of I and you, the notion of I and you, have been superimposed on one another. That is what Shankaracharya says, or that is what Advaita Vedanta is saying. Now that superimposition is itself wrong. The fact that you are saying that I is superimposed on you or you is superimposed on I is itself wrong. Because Upanishads say that the self is experienced as I, and the self is Supreme Brahman. Self is Supreme Brahman, and it is free from Kartritva, Bhoktritva. Self does not have any doership and enjoyership. So now, if that may be the case, if that is the case, then you cannot say that this I is superimposed. It is not superimposition. It is just self. It is just self. And another thing is our experience. What do we experience? We experience that I am a man, I am a woman, I am a girl, I am a boy. And we also experience that I enjoyed the sweet, I enjoyed ice cream, I enjoyed this food, I enjoyed the travel, and so on and so forth. So this is a fact which is established fact, and it cannot be denied by any other thing. And there is no experience in this world which contradicts this fact. We have never come across any experience in this world which contradicts this fact. So according to worldly experience, this is the experience, that I am the enjoyer and I am the doer. This is the standpoint of the opponent. And so because it is a well established fact, however, how much over number of Upanishadic statements you give, but the self is enjoying and self is doing cannot be negated. You may quote thousands of scriptures, but when you get hungry, who gets hungry? You get hungry. When you eat food, who eats food? Now Serin cannot tell I took food, so she cannot tell to her sons, oh, you will not get food because food, you are not the doer, you are not the enjoyer, nothing. So I have also not cooked and you are also not eaten. So finish. That's all. Like that, it cannot be told. So the opponent says that if that is the case, we know that this is an experience. And so, how can we say that the Upanishadic statements are false? Then we have to understand that the Upanishadic statements are all telling in symbolic language. They are talking in symbolic language, figuratively. Upanishad cannot say that you are not the enjoyer and you are not the doer, because you do enjoy and you do. So how can you say that? So that means we have to understand, using our intelligence, which the opponent seems to have in extra quantity, that this Adityo Yupaha Yajamanaha Pashuhu. So you see, in the Veda we find such statements. What is the statement? Adityo Yupaha. The sun is the, Yupa means sacrificial stake. Bali Pitha, they say. There will be a small pillar kind of thing. On that there will be one small place, and in that they will sacrifice. So a Vedic sacrifice. So that is called Bali Pitha. So Yupaha is that sacrificial stake. And Yajamana is the person who is supposed to be the sacrificer. Yajamana is when you go to some temple and you give some puja, you do some puja to the priest, so the pujari will say, what is your nakshatra, what is your gotra, etc. Then Yajamana, Saparivareshu, Namaha, like that, depending on what you are giving as money, from 1 second to 1 hour, puja will be there. So whatever. So that Yajamana means the person who is doing the sacrifice. The person who is the lord of the sacrifice. Yajamana means owner or lord. So here it is said that sun is the sacrificial stake and sacrificer himself is the animal. What does it mean? Does it mean that you have to put the person himself or herself on the sun and cut him? How is it possible? Doesn't make sense. So there we take it in a different figurative meaning. We take it in a figurative meaning. So similarly, though we have the experience of Atman Brahman, because self is Atman and self is Brahman, we know that by Advaita Vedanta. And so we have to figuratively understand that you are not the doer, you are not the enjoyer means what? It seems that you are not the doer, you are not the enjoyer, like that. And so if we understand, then we will have samsara, because Atman is nothing but Brahman. So if you understand like that, what is the harm in Brahman getting birth and death? Let Brahman take countless birth and countless death. Wonderful logic by the opponent. So knowledge of Brahman cannot be considered to have the purpose of moksha. So this Brahma Jigyasa, this is totally without any use. And so there is no need to study this Brahma Sutra and all that. We were all very happy enjoying our weekend, and this is all not necessary. This is all waste of time. So we are not going to study. This is the opponent's statement. So now if you have to show somebody that you need to study the Brahma Sutras, then what you have to do? You have to show that there is a purpose behind Brahma Sutra study. For that, what you have to do? You have to say that this idea which you have got, my brother or sister, whoever the opponent is, that the Atman is reflected through eye experience, and so Atman is Brahman, so Brahman is also reflected by eye experience, etc. That idea itself is wrong. That is an erroneous understanding, mistaken understanding. Why? Why is that mistaken understanding? Because in Upanishads we see, in Vedas we see that the self or Atman does not have any kind of limits, does not have any kind of properties, attributes. It is, what is it? Never changing. It does not have any change. It does not have any parts. It is infinite. It is full of bliss, absolute bliss. It is absolute consciousness, and it is unattached. It is indifferent, and it is only one. So all these things we see in the Upanishads. So only one does not work here, because ourself, when we say I experience, this I experience is okay. Maybe ultimately this is coming from the self. But where do we locate this I experience? In a particular body. When you say I, you will not mean my body. When I say I don't mean your body. So there are so many bodies and so many eyes. So both the pair of eyes and also I, capital I. So many eyes. So that means this cannot be that Upanishadic Atman, because it is only one. It's only one. And it is same Atman which is there in all living beings, etc. we find in the Upanishads. If that is true, how can you say that this I experience which we get in our day-to-day activities, where we say aham idam, mama idam, etc. This is mine, this is I am this, etc. All these kinds of Naisargika Loka Vyavahara which was told by Shankaracharya, which is all common, beginningless expressions of I. If that is the case, how does it tally with what Atman is talked of in the Upanishads? Then it is infinite. We are definitely not talking about infinite bodies. We are talking about finite bodies. But Upanishads does not talk about a finite Atman. It talks about an infinite Atman. The never changing. You are an infant, you become young, you become middle-aged, then you become old. Then blissful. So much suffering is there. Unattached. We are so attached. So this is the self which is talked of in the scriptures. And the same thing is over and again repeated in the scriptures. So we cannot have any kind of mistake about the idea of the scriptures, because the opponent said, oh, yupa adityo yupah yajamanah pashuhu. So like that, it could be a secret meaning, could be there, a figurative meaning could be there, but there is no chance of any figurative upachara, it is called, any figurative meaning here. Why? Because it is so clear, and over and again in different words and different expressions the same thing is told in Upanishads. So that has to be understood. If somebody says sadhu sadhu, that means in Sanskrit great great or beautiful beautiful. So if somebody says sadhu sadhu, means wonderful wonderful, good good, again and again somebody says sadhu sadhu, how can you say that that repetition is in a figurative sense? It cannot be taken as expression in figurative sense. When somebody says wonderful wonderful, that means again and again, then we cannot say that it is sarcastic or there is something. We have to accept that that person actually wants to say that it is wonderful wonderful wonderful. And so when we experience self as I, etc., no matter whatever may be the basis of that experience, our experience but comes in a very limited manner. Our experience comes in a finite manner. And so they contradict the scriptural expressions, whatever is told in the Upanishads, because here we are experiencing finitude, we are not experiencing infinitude, and also because we are experiencing grief and sorrow, we are not experiencing bliss. And wherever we see that there is a difference between what scriptures are telling and what we are experiencing, there we have to automatically give precedence to the scriptures, because scriptures are having a superior position than our day-to-day mundane daily experience, worldly experience. So it is called Tatparyavat Shruti Prabala. So as far as meaning is concerned, Tatparyavati Shruti Prabala. So that Shruti which is full of meaning, she is more strong, she is stronger as far as meaning is concerned. So we have to say that your first objection, that this I and self are same, and so self and Atman and Brahman are same, so there is no necessity to study separately Brahman, is also here contradicted, because this I, what we regularly perceive in the worldly sense, is actually not the real I. It has come because of superimposition. So what Shruti says has to be taken as the superior statement. And so this idea that self itself is I experience, and because I experience is self, it is Atman, and so as we study from the Upanishad, it is Brahman also. This kind of a conclusion is erroneous, because we are considering this limited I, full of grief and sorrow, to be the unlimited consciousness. So this is where superimposition is taking place. We are superimposing this I on that consciousness, or we are superimposing that consciousness on this body. So this superimposition is taking place, and so you cannot say that I, self, etc., and I experience are all one. So another thing which the opponent says is that, you see, there is neither any similarity nor any non-discrimination between the Atma and Anatma. So, you see, there can sadrishya means similarity. There is no similarity between Atman and Anatman. They're completely different. Atman is limitless, infinite, etc., etc. And Anatma is finite, as we saw just now. So different differences are so many. There is no similarity. And there is no non-discrimination also. There is discrimination between Atman and Anatman. There is no non-discrimination. So Beda is there. There is Beda Graha is there. Means you are accepting the differences. You are not Beda Agraha is not there. Means you are not accepting the differences. You are accepting the differences. So because you are accepting the differences between the self and the not self, or the Atman and the Anatman, then what is the problem again? You know that they are different. You are accepting the difference. Then what is the problem? Now when there is no cause for any kind of problem to arise, how is it that you are saying that there is superimposition? Again, now you see these objections are taken from different commentaries, and the opponent has got so much problem with the superimposition, because superimposition, if we accept, then we have to go for Brahma Jigyasa, inquiry into Brahman. And here that opponent does not want to set on an inquiry into Brahman. So the Siddhanti or Advaitin says that, you see, it is not like that. It is not like that, because we can see superimposition. Because how can we see? We can see it. It has got a definite nature. Superimposition has a definite nature is there. Superimposition has a definite nature. What is the nature? That you are superimposing one thing on the another, and you are saying aham idam mama idam. Aham idam mama idam. You are saying that this is mine and I am this. So this is very clearly and universally it is experienced, and so you cannot say that there is no superimposition. There is definitely superimposition is there, though that is why the superimposition is also there. Atma and Anatma are different. Everybody accepts that. Atma and Anatma are different. Self and not self are different. And there is also this discrimination that they are different. But because of superimposition, we forget what is Anatma and what is Atma. The problem is not that we don't know that Atma and Anatma are different. Our problem is we confuse among themselves. Superimposition itself is this. I know that snake is different, rope is different. If you come and tell me, oh, what is the problem? You don't know, don't you know? Snake is different, rope is different. I know snake is different, rope is different. Then don't you not discriminate between them? Definitely I discriminate between them. If you give me a computer screen and you show snake, I will say this is snake. And if you show me rope, I will say this is rope. I will not say this is snake and this is rope. But the problem is, at that particular moment, I am unable to distinguish between snake and rope. Not because I don't know how a snake looks like or how a rope looks like, but I am unable to differentiate them, not in the sense that I don't know the different properties, but I am confusing rope to be snake. In that particular locus, I am confusing rope to be snake. In that particular moment, in that particular place, I am confusing rope to be snake. So I don't see the rope at all. That is the problem. From the first moment, I am seeing snake. So when I am seeing snake, how can you say that, array, this is rope? So that knowledge is not there. It is not that I see rope and I don't know what is rope. I know only snake, so I am saying no, this is snake because I have never seen rope. It is not like that. Okay, you go to a forest, you see from a distant animal, it looks like a cow, but then later on you come to know that it is not cow, it is Nilgai. So this is Nilgai. But that is not what is happening here. I know what is a rope, I know what is a snake, but when I am seeing that, I am seeing the snake. I'm not seeing the rope at all. So this is a superimposition which is there, and so we have to understand that once we understand that the superimposition, mutual superimposition of Atma or Anatma, mutually they are superimposed. Once we understand that it is there, then we have to understand that then what is the nature of Brahma Jnana or Brahma Jigyasa, that we have to find out what Atma is talked of in the Upanishads. Because what I consider myself to be, the self which I consider in myself, is not the same self as it is talked about in the Upanishads. That definitely is a different self. Because that self is not limited. That self is not suffering. So, because now I understand that the adhyasa or superimposition exists, now I have to understand what is the self which is talked of in the Upanishads. So we have to find out the nature of that self. And this self is talked of only in the Upanishads and only by rishis or who have seen that. It is not seen in worldly experience. You cannot experience it through the sense organs. You cannot experience it through the mind. You cannot experience it through empirical means. So, this has to be experienced only by analyzing the Upanishadic statements as analyzed in the Brahma Sutras. And which Brahma Sutra begins? Athato Brahma Jigyasa. With the apt introduction that we are now going to set forth on an inquiry of Brahman. Only by analyzing Upanishadic statements as analyzed in Brahma Sutras will we get that Brahmakara Vritti, the end which will destroy ignorance, and so automatically the mind will be destroyed, and when the mind will be destroyed, automatically we will get the knowledge of Brahman. So if we do a detailed analysis of superimposition, we can understand that the superimposition is what comes in the way of the knowledge of Brahman. And so now we can understand that because there is superimposition, so we need to enter into an inquiry of Brahma Sutras or inquiry of Brahman by the study of Brahma Sutras, and we have to understand that the subject matter of Brahma Sutras or the study is Brahmatma Aikya, Brahma Atma Aikya, identity of Brahman and Atman. And the other thing which we have seen is that the mutual superimposition of Atma and Anatma is natural, is Swabhavika, is natural, Naisargika. And it has been there since beginning, without beginning. And it has caused us so much suffering. So much suffering. Now, so a person who has sadhana chatushtaya, what is sadhana chatushtaya? Viveka, Vairagya, Shama, Adi, Shatka, Sampatti, and Mumukshutva. Now, Shama, Adi, Shatka, Sampatti means wealth of 6. What are they? Shama, Dama, Titiksha, Shraddha, Uparati, Shraddha, Samadhana. So these are the 6 qualities. So you should have these 6 qualities. You should have Viveka, discernment. You should have Vairagya, dispassion. And you should have Mumukshutva, desire to get moksha. If you have all these things and then you start studying Brahma Sutra, then what will happen? then you will be able to understand the nature of superimposition, and also you will be able to understand what Brahman is. And because you see, Jiva Brahma Aikya or Atma Brahma Aikya is so opposite to what we experience. We experience a body, we experience stomachache, we experience headache, so many aches, fever, hunger, sleep, etc. And how can you say that this is identical with Brahman? That means what we experience, we don't experience Atman. That's the point. We don't experience Atman. We are experiencing only the Anatman. We are experiencing only the not self. So there is no referring point. There is no point of reference in our daily experience to this identity of Atman and Brahman. And so because of that, the person who wants to understand Brahman should have what? Strong yearning. The yearning should be strong. If you don't have strong yearning, then otherwise how will you understand this Brahman? Because you cannot see it, you cannot empirically experience it, you cannot experience it through the mind, then how will you see? So that strong this thing is necessary. And so in that Brahma Sutra, first Sutra, Athato Brahma Jigyasa, the Atha, the part Atha, Atah Brahma Jigyasa. So the word Atha denotes that you have already established yourself in Sadhana Chatushtaya. That means you have strong Viveka, you have strong dispassion or Vairagya, you are established in all the 6 qualities: Shama, Dhamma, Titiksha, Uparati, Shraddha, Samadhana, etc. And then you also want to attain Mumukshutva. You have the yearning, longing for liberation, you want to attain moksha. All these things are there, and that is denoted by Atha. That means when they say Athato Brahma Jigyasa, means okay, now let us have the inquiry on Brahman. Now means what? Now means after you have completed all these preliminary prerequisites, now let us have this. And after having that, what will happen? You will get the knowledge of Brahman. If you get knowledge of Brahman, no, you will not get knowledge of Brahman, because knowledge of Brahman is always there. You will dispel ignorance. Your ignorance will be removed. If ignorance is removed, knowledge of Brahman will, it is Swayam Prakasha. Atman is Swayam Prakash, self-effulgent. So you will get the knowledge of Brahman. And how do you do that? There are 3 stages: Manana, Nididhyasana, Shravana, Manana, Nididhyasana. So Shravana means what? Shravana means not just hearing. Shravana means properly learning without any doubt and without any confusion. Understanding, that is Shravana. Shravana means understanding. You understand it completely without any doubt. Assimilation is Shravana. Once you do that, then what is Manana? Analyze. Manana is inquiring or analysis. So what you have heard, what you have assimilated, you analyze. And Nididhyasana, you do a deep meditation on that. You go deep into the analysis and the meaning, whatever you have assimilated, whatever you have received, you go deep into that. So Ataha means also that once you have now got all the qualifications of Shama Adi Shatka Sampatti, now you are now ready to Ataha, because Ataha, therefore Atha, now therefore Brahma Jigyasa. So because you have done the preparation, So therefore now atah what you have to do? You have to do manana and nididhyasana. You have to do manana and nididhyasana. So these are the steps. And these steps we use to study what? Upanishadic statements. So that ignorance is removed. And eventually we get Brahma Jnana, knowledge of Brahman. Okay. So today we will stop here. Om Shanti 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 Hari Om Tat Sat.